Hey guys, thanks for joining me. If you've watched a lot of my videos in the past, or even just a few of them really, you kind of know that grid power is almost always the fastest way to charge your power station. But if you happen to be out and about, you're car camping, you're boondocking, you're doing whatever, solar is usually the next best way to charge your power stations when you're on the go. But what happens if you are kind of like me, where you're not spending a lot of time at camp? You're usually in the car on your way to the next trailhead. You don't want to leave this thing in the parking lot with a solar panel on top charging, because somebody might walk off with it. And so what do? You're kind of stuck doing 12-volt charging from your car, as I'm doing right now. And if I zoom in here, you can see we are only getting about 103 watts. And depending on your car, you might max out at maybe 120 watts. And that might be the best case scenario if you're trying to fully charge a power station off of that 12-volt connector. And in this case, we're looking at the EcoFlow Delta 2, but it's basically the same with any power station, but definitely not an exception for the EcoFlow series of power stations as well. And by charging off 12-volt, depending on how far you've depleted your battery and you're trying to get another charge on, right now you can see I'm at 53%. It's going to take 3 hours at the current rate charging this through the 12-volt connector in the back. And so if I've got to get a full charge, that's going to be upwards of 8 hours, maybe even a little bit more than that, again, depending on your car. But 8+ hours to fully charge something like this 1,000 watt-hour EcoFlow Delta using that 12-volt connector. That's not ideal because, I may only be on the road for an hour and a half or two, and then I go out hiking. My car's not charging because I don't want it to run my car battery down when I'm not driving it. So I'm kind of stuck. I can only get a very limited amount of charge back into my EcoFlow power station when I'm driving. And I'm not back at camp, so I can't use a solar panel. So how do you go about getting better charging when you're on the go and you're not sitting at camp in a condition where you can actually charge via solar? Well, EcoFlow has just introduced a new product that makes that significantly easier. And that's this guy right here. It weighs a little bit. Put it up here. I haven't opened the box yet, but this is their new alternator charger. And it basically has several inputs here. It is wireless, so it does connect to the EcoFlow app. It's got a long cable to allow you to route that cable all the way up to your car battery. And then it'll monitor your car battery's voltage. And you might get variable output, as we'll see when we go and test this thing, depending on whether or not the car is running. Because when you're actually running the car, the alternator is putting out a higher voltage than the battery, somewhere around 14.5 volts typically, so that your battery is charging. Well, you can use that excess voltage from the alternator to power this, and this thing will allow you to get up to 800 watts of power into your power station, which will allow you to top this thing off in about an hour. Or if you have like a Delta Pro with a lot more capacity, it'll take a little bit longer than that, but still nowhere near as long as it takes to charge off that 12-volt, which is really ineffective on anything bigger than, say, a 500 watt-hour type power station. So it's not, it's nice to have that 12-volt charging capability as a backup, but for most people with a medium to large size capacity power station, it's just not a practical solution. But something like this changes the game entirely. In fact, this might completely eliminate the need for you to ever use solar at all if you drive even a little bit. So now I can really fully charge this thing off in the hour drive to the next trailhead. I'm completely topped off. So this is really potentially a game changer. So let's get this thing out of the box and kind of see how it works. And we can do that actually without even connecting it to the car. I'm going to connect it to a battery. I'll probably just use this battery right here, which is a 12-volt also. And we'll just kind of see the difference on how it behaves connected to something like this. And then I'll connect a charger up to that, which will hopefully mimic an alternator. And we'll see if we get even more power back into the EcoFlow Delta 2 here from this alternator charger. So let's get this out of the box and see what it is. All right, so here we have a fuse module. So this obviously goes off of the positive terminal of the battery, and I think this cover is probably removable. There you go. Yeah, and it's got a little 125 amp AEP fuse there. So if you ever blow the fuse, you can replace it. And then this is a connector that allows you, this is an XT90 connector that goes into the side of an EcoFlow Delta level power station. So this does not work on the River series, but only the Delta or the Delta Pro. But those have that XT90, these two big pins with the 6 little COM pins in the middle. And then this connects into the bottom of the charging unit. And then this is the big cable that allows you to pull all that extra power through the alternator. So you've got a positive lead, and then you've got a negative lead here. So this would connect to ground up near the battery somewhere. This connects to the positive terminal. Actually, you would connect it to the other side of this fuse, and this would connect to the positive terminal. I'm assuming, I'll double check that in the manual, but that's how I believe you'd do that. And this should be enough cable. I'll have to get the length of this for you, but to run off a, a standard kind of a 3-row SUV size type of car, to allow you to get from wherever you're going to mount this in the back, presumably, and get this cable routed all the way up to the engine compartment, assuming that that's where your battery is located. Now, I should probably state what may or may not be obvious to some of you, is that this product, at least if you're going to be using it in a car battery alternator situation, is probably not suitable in an EV type of car situation. Now, I need to double check that there, because most EVs do have a 12-volt battery system in addition to the high voltage battery that the car runs off of. But I'm not sure that that 12-volt system is really designed for something like this, and I suspect, so that's probably a no-go. If you happen to know otherwise, or have maybe done a little research into that, please go ahead and leave some comments below, because I'd be curious to know more about that, because my wife just bought a Mustang Mach-E, and it's our first EV. And I would be a little hesitant to install this on an EV, just knowing what I have heard about EV 12-volt systems. So on the bottom here, you can see this little Wi-Fi transceiver module right there. There is a little comms connector, and then there's your input connector, it looks like. And then here, actually, this is the output connector to the battery, and then this is the input connector. And you can see they are different, so you can't screw them up. But this is the one that goes to the car battery, looks like. And then this goes to, yeah, in fact, it's actually got a little shape of an EcoFlow Delta power station right on it. On the back, it looks like maybe there's some threaded screws for a mounting bracket, is what I'm going to say those are right there. Aluminum housing. This thing is nice and heavy duty. I would say it weighs, if I had to guess without looking at the manual, it probably weighs about 5 pounds. So it's not cheaply made at all. You can tell this is a very quality piece of hardware. So let's take a quick look at the user guide. All right, warranty card. Let's take a quick look at that. Looks like 2-year warranty on this. And then this is the version 1.0 of the user manual. So I know this is a very new product, and we will see what's involved. Yeah, the manual shows that there's a mounting kit. And it looks like a cable puller in one of these other boxes. Ah, yes. One more box. Yeah, so there's the mounting bracket. So this will bolt directly to these 3 screws in the back there. And then that'll give you access to a plate to allow you to mount that on top to wherever you need to mount it. Maybe a charging bay in your RV or something like that. And then over here you've got, oh, this is a little bracket that's going to allow you to easily pry those cable connectors back apart, because they're in there really tight, and this little tool is very helpful, so you don't have to use a screwdriver and scratch it all to pieces. And then you got some mounting bolts. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing connected up and kind of just see how it behaves. All right, I went ahead and mounted it to the wall just to kind of give you an example of what it would look like. It does make getting access to these bottom connectors a little bit easier having it up on a wall. But the pictures on here, for the one for the car, the cable has a car picture, so you just match the pictures. And like I said, the connectors are keyed, so you can't put the cables in the wrong places or in the wrong orientation. They just won't connect. Now, on this little communications port here on the side, there is a power port, so you do have to press that button to turn the unit on. And there will be a little light on the top. I don't know if you can make out the little glow there, but it is kind of breathing to show me that it has power. And I have the battery connector. This is what you would run all the way up into your engine compartment. And as I mentioned, the red lead over here gets connected to this little fuse block that it comes with. And so that positively then goes to the positive terminal. In this case, I'm putting it on my bus bar for my 12-volt system. But you can connect that directly to the positive red lead on your 12-volt battery. And then the negative I have going up here to my negative bus bar, and that could go to your negative lead on the battery, or actually more appropriately probably a grounding point, which your battery should be grounded to your car chassis. So this black lead would then go to the grounding point. All right, so we have power on here, and I actually do have this working on the EcoFlow app. It was pretty easy to get connected. Once I powered it up, EcoFlow automatically detected it. All right, so let me put this up on screen so you can see what we're doing here. And you can see the alternator charger and my Delta 2 are both showing there right on top. So let me go ahead and click on the alternator charger, and it'll establish communications. It's reading, in this case, it's saying off of my engine, which is my car battery. It's reading 14 volts. And you can see up here on my wall, I do have solar coming into this. I've got a little 800-watt solar array. So this can kind of simulate, I think, how an alternator would work. Let's try it without the solar input right now. And this here is the XT90 connector. And that is the thing that you connect over here to a Delta series EcoFlow power station to the extra battery port. That's the XT90. So if we just go ahead and connect that right now to that port. So I've got that connected right now. Let's just keep our eye on the app here and see if it automatically starts charging or not. Looks like I need to update the firmware on this power station. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, as you can see, I did get the Delta 2 firmware updated. So it is now charging. So I did have to do that first. And you can see we're pulling only 400 watts right now, which is still a dramatic improvement, almost 4 times what we were getting off the standard DC, 12-volt DC port. But I'm guessing that's because it's looking at the engine voltage at 13 volts and picking up that it might be a little on the low side, so it doesn't want to overwhelm that. So it's probably making the assumption that the engine is not running based on the fact that we're not getting normal alternator type voltage. So let's maybe try and simulate an alternator by turning on my solar connection over here. And let's just see what that does, if that makes any kind of a change. It'd be like starting your car. So let's let the charge controller figure out where the maximum power point is and start adding voltage to the battery here. So it's counting up as the charge controller for the solar is adjusting its input. Now that may fluctuate, and I assume that this alternator controller will fluctuate with it. But we should be able to get, if we were getting maximum input on that charge controller to the battery, that would be enough to simulate the alternator current of 14.5 volts. That would allow us to get a full 800 watts into this Delta Pro, which, as you can see, we're down at 37% now, and I'd be able to fully charge this thing off in an hour, even at the current 600 watt rate. Yeah, and another interesting thing here, if you look at the working mode there where it says operating mode, we're currently on charge. You can reverse charge. So if this is fully topped off and maybe I want to go back and maybe add charge to my car battery from the power station, I can do a reverse charge here right off of the app, and then it will allow me to add charge back to the car battery if that's something that you ever need to do. So I like the fact that that is a thing that they have built into this. So battery maintenance shows you that you can use the power station to charge your car's battery at a low voltage to prevent battery depletion. So it's like a trickle charge. And then reverse charge, use it to charge the battery for an extended type of use period. So it seems like they've thought of pretty much everything in here. Now the other thing that's cool is that this is much more efficient than AC charging because you're doing direct DC charging. So the power coming in is DC. The power that the battery is using is DC. So if you're charging this off grid power, it has to convert from AC to DC in the charge controller in there, and there's a conversion, there's some loss. So this is a direct DC to DC charge, which is about somewhere between 15–20% more efficient than charging it off of AC. So what's the downside of this? Well, there's really not a lot of downside to something like this, except if you don't have an EcoFlow power station with an XT90 connector on it. So if you happen to have a River series, this really isn't going to help you. If you have an alternate brand power station, it really is not going to help you with that either, unless you have some other way to convert that XT90. So it's not really designed for that. It's specifically designed for the EcoFlow Delta series. So just be aware of that. If you happen to be a Delta series owner, then this is a very viable and powerful option to do charging on the go. if you don't have time to sit around a camp and just charge off of solar. So I think this is really compelling, certainly for me and the type of car camping that I do. So hey, if you did find anything useful in this video, I'd appreciate it if you consider clicking that thumbs up button for me. That would be very helpful, and consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. I've got a ton more things in the pipeline, just trying to find the time to get them posted for you. Anyway, I do thank you for spending a little time with me and watching this video, and I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.